It's my pleasure to introduce to you Kathy Colangelo, Executive Director of Partners in Education.
Hey, good morning, good morning. I'm so glad to have you all here. Thanks for the intro, Valerie. I'm so excited. Today is our kickoff of our first virtual Girl Power in STEM, Women in Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math Symposium. So this is day one of our 5-day series, and we have a great program planned for you. Each day, the times are different, but our format will generally be the same. We're going to start with a keynote speaker, move into our panelists and do some Q&A, then end the day with our spotlight sponsors who represent local businesses and colleges, universities, and trade schools. So you'll want to stick around until the end because we have door prizes too. So over the course of our program, you're going to be hearing from about 30 women who are in STEM related careers. Some are teaching what they love, some changed careers in midlife, and some are just getting started. A few of our presenters have PhDs or several different degrees, and some are learning a trade currently, and some earned associate degrees first, and then continued their education once they were part of the workforce. So you'll hear all different kinds of options. And as our presenters share their journeys, just remember that before they were a geologist or a speech therapist or an accountant, an engineer, or a surgical technician, they were all you. They were all 8th graders and 10th graders and seniors getting ready to leave high school. Some of them may have always known what field they wanted to go in after graduation, and some of them have no idea. Some of them had no idea, and that's all okay. No matter what the case, it's all good. It's okay to be a little confused and unsure of what you want to do, and you don't have to make a decision right this minute. We're here to help you. That's what the point of all this is, and give you some different perspectives and options. We realize that there are many jobs that are considered STEM related, many more than we can possibly fit into the time we have together. But keep an open mind and listen to what our presenters have to share. Maybe it will confirm what you already knew about what you wanted to study, and maybe you'll discover a completely new field that you never even heard about before. So no matter what the case, it's like I said, it's all good. I want you to sit back, relax, take in the info, and please don't be afraid to ask questions. There's no such thing as a dumb or silly question. And I can bet you that somebody else that's participating today is thinking the same thing. So go ahead and ask. And Miss Valerie is going to tell you in a couple minutes how to do that. So enough for me. I like to chat, but I have my cards to keep me on track. And I made a little rhyme. So right now, I'd like to get started and introduce our keynote speaker, who is representing one of our gold sponsors, which is the Lehigh Valley Health Network in Hazleton. So let me bring up Miss Michelle Roberts, RN, MSN, FAB, who is the Vice President of Patient Care Services at the Lehigh Valley Hospital in Hazleton. Michelle is responsible for the operational leadership and management of the 150-bed acute care hospital that's located right here in Hazleton. Michelle works closely with her colleagues at the Lehigh Valley Health Network to provide patients with an excellent care experience. Her strong partnership with Lehigh Valley Hazleton's quality leader has led to improving the hospital's quality scores from Leapfrog C to a Leapfrog A. Michelle has integrated many of the patient care services recruitment initiatives, including Lehigh Valley Hazleton's graduate nurses participating in the nurse residency program. Michelle holds an AS in business from Camden County Community College, a BSN from the College of New Jersey, and an MSN from Drexel University. She has also completed a Leader Intensive Fellowship with the Advisory Board. Prior to becoming the Vice President of Patient Care Services, Michelle's 22 years of experience includes operating room staff RN, progressive OR leadership positions, and perioperative project manager consulting. Through her work at Lehigh Valley Hazleton, Michelle has advanced her leadership scope to include inpatient nursing, critical care, emergency room, family newborn center, respiratory, as well as the perioperative department. And Michelle has presented nationally and holds memberships in professional nursing organizations. So Michelle, I know you have a very busy schedule, and I'm excited to welcome you today. And thank you for being here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, Michelle Roberts.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of this exciting program. I was absolutely thrilled when I was asked to be the keynote speaker. So I am going to share some slides with you all this morning and just share some of my story with you. Because I was just like you many, many years ago in high school and really not sure what I wanted to do with my life, with my career. So this is my story. So here I'm gonna share, this is from high school. So it was a really, really long time ago. That's me doing the thing with my fingers over my eyes. And I don't share this story often, but I think it's important for young women, especially at that high school age. I had a couple of colleges that I had picked out that I thought, okay, well, I'll just get started with some liberal arts. And when I met with my my guidance counselor, he said to me, well, you're not good enough to get into any of those programs. Just go to a community college. They have to take you. So you can imagine a young woman that, I didn't have a lot of confidence back then. I made the mistake of believing that. And when I graduated high school, I really didn't have plans to go to college. I thought, wow, I'm probably just not smart enough to go. And so I got a job answering phones. It was my first job as a receptionist, and it was like almost an hour away from my home. And, it was okay. It really wasn't that rewarding, but I figured I'd have to, get a job after high school. And these are my grandparents. So this is kind of where my inspiration comes from. My grandfather, who I adored when I was younger, he saw me working. And I think in general, my family, they didn't give me a hard time about not going to college. I think they were disappointed, but they realized, well, she'll kind of have to find her path. And, I had been working for a couple of weeks and I was out buying all this stuff. And my grandfather said to me, you have champagne taste in a beer pocketbook. I said, what does that mean? And he said, well, you want nice things and you just keep spending your money and you can't keep going on like this. If you want to better yourself, the best way to do that is go back to school and figure out what kind of career you want to do. And so I thought, okay. And I went back to community college and I started taking some classes, and I realized that guidance counselor wasn't right, that I was smart and that I did really well in the associate's level program and had initially started off in business. And I was in the program for maybe about a year, and then my grandfather had gotten sick with lung cancer. And he gotten to the point where he required hospice care. I'm sorry, worked up. And I was so impressed with how those nurses took care of him that I figured I want to do this. I'm sorry, I didn't think I'd be so emotional telling the story. So I changed the classes and decided to go into healthcare, and kind of evolved into where I am today. And he subsequently passed, but I'd like to think that the work that I do this is my why. It was always so important for me to be able to care for patients the way that he was cared for. So if anything, from these next couple days for you young ladies, just don't believe when people tell you that you're not smart enough or that you're not good enough, and find your why. I'm really sorry. I didn't think I would be this emotional. But anywho, so that's kind of my inspiration in a nutshell. And there's a couple different ways that you could become a nurse. So after you graduate high school, there are diploma programs, which mean you'll go through a set number of years, and you'll get the courses that you need. You'll graduate, but you won't really have a degree. You'll be able to sit for your licensure exam. There's also, you can go to take a 2-year program and get an associate's degree, or you can go for a 4-year degree, which is a bachelor program. So after I had graduated with my associate's degree, the degree was in business, but I had all of the sciences that I needed to transfer into my baccalaureate program. So when I graduated with my BSN from the College of New Jersey, I was eligible then to sit for the licensure exam. After the licensure exam, it's typically by state, and you're able to then, depending on geographically where you want to work in the United States, sometimes there's compact licenses, which means when you take an exam, it's very easy then to apply for licensure. Let's say if I wanted to get a license in New Jersey, that's part of my compact state, it would be very easy to do so. The thing that I really love about nursing is how varied it is. There is virtually a ton of different fields in nursing that you can go through. Within the hospital, you can do med surg, you can do critical care, you can work in an emergency room, or you can work in the operating room. So my passion has always been the operating room, and that's kind of where I grew up. And most of my nursing experience is in the operating room. However, you could also, if you're not interested in working in hospital-based care, you can go and work at a clinic in a doctor's office. You can work as a school nurse. You can even do sales for pharmaceuticals or device sales. And then kind of a newer field within nursing is called informatics. With the way hospitals are right now, we have all these electronic medical records, and they need really smart nurses who are good and skilled in clinical nursing to help build order sets and things like that. So that's a really, really growing field within nursing. I do want to just high level go over other careers in healthcare, and you're going to hear from some of those individuals today. So for those who want to go into like physical therapy, occupational speech, if you want to be a social worker or a physician assistant, you do need college. There's some college required, bachelor's or master's degree. There are alternatives if you think, well, I'm not really sure if I'm ready to go through that, but I would like to try some other alternatives. There are training programs, and you could either obtain them through an associate's degree or a certification program. And we have medical assistants, phlebotomy technicians who draw blood, EMTs, LPNs, which we do use here at the hospital, medical coders, surgical technologists, and you'll actually get to meet one of those today, and radiology technicians. That was my very emotional story this morning. I'm sorry, but I'm here for questions. So if any of you have questions.
So, Michelle, I'm just blown away by your intro. Thank you so much for sharing your personal story. I don't know how to move on from here. It was beautiful. So thanks for sharing your inspiration. And I think a lot of us can relate to having that sort of inspiration that comes from family or comes from within. So thanks so much for sharing your personal story and your journey into this great career that you have now. So girls, I know, and boys, Michelle has obviously opened up for questions. If anyone has a question, you can place it in the chat. And also if you think of a question, as we go through the program, Michelle, you're staying on with us for the panel and the rest of the program. So we can even bring you back in if a question pops up specifically for you during our panel discussion and, address it back your way. And if they do have something they want to, follow up with you, a question or anything specific to contact you, what would be the best way for the girls to reach out?
Both my email and Kathy, are you going to be sharing our contact information?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, perfect.
Yes.
All right. So thank you so much. I don't see any immediate questions, Michelle. So if you can hang on with us through the panel, we'll see if any other questions come in. And so thank you very much for sharing that beautiful story.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right, so girls and boys, just wanted to, welcome you again. My name is Valerie Sarah, and I am co-founder and CEO of Lesson Alive. And I am going to be with all of you for the 5 sessions and supporting Kathy with Partners in Education and facilitating the wonderful panel conversations that we have. And today, since our theme is science, we have some really amazing females that work in various science fields, healthcare, as Michelle spoke about, as well as some others. And so I'm going to jump in, but if you do have questions, the panelists are inspired by all of you and your questions. So we really want to make sure that we are answering all of your questions as they come through. So you can either put them in the public chat. You can also send them to me directly. And as we're going through the panel conversation, we'll answer as many as we possibly can throughout the program. All right, so we're gonna jump right in here, and I'm already inspired by Michelle's story and Kathy's welcome, and I think you're all gonna just, find the rest of our panelists equally inspiring. All of these women have great stories about their career journeys that we're going to share with you today. So I'm going to jump right in and actually get started. And I really wanted to start, we're going to sort of deviate a little bit here from the medical space and talk with Lori Gervin. Lori is a senior project manager in environmental consulting with Barry Isett and Associates. And I really want to introduce you to Lori and her interesting story. Lori, welcome. Glad to have you. Lori, we'd love to hear a little bit about you. So tell us about yourself, what you do at Barry Isett, and definitely, take us through your career journey and how you got where you are today.
Okay, well, I'm a professional geologist and environmental consultant for Barry Isett, which is an engineering firm. I do multiple types of engineering. And I actually have 2 degrees. My first degree is from Wilkes University. It's Earth Environmental Science. And then after working 10 years in environmental consulting, I decided to go back to school then at Bloomsburg University for geology. And my day today, it varies what I do every day at work. Some days we just do property assessments. Other days I'm out on sites doing sampling jobs, soil, groundwater sampling. I actually have a couple job site photos if that's good to share right now.
I think that would be great. Let's let the girls see what your day-to-day looks like.
Okay, a lot of times, it's hard for people to picture what I do when I try to describe, doing site assessments and sampling jobs. And these are some local project sites we had, sites where we discovered contamination on the properties due to like an oil spill or something like that. And so as a senior project manager, what I have to do is I have to coordinate the site work. So a lot of times that involves directing large equipment and telling the operators where we need to dig, where we need to drill, where we're installing wells. So these are just 2 different types of equipment that, again, I've been on site with for well drilling jobs. Obviously, you can see the one's a little bigger than the other. The smaller units, a little easier to maneuver around sites when you have like tighter working situations. And then we also get to dig things up. Again, contaminated properties, potential like old landfill sites. So again, I have to meet equipment operators on site. We have to go over the details of the project, what we're looking for, the depths we're digging. I'm also coordinating like what depths I'm collecting soil samples from. Again, are we encountering groundwater at the site? The picture on the right is an underground storage tank removal. Again, a lot, especially old businesses, we find abandoned heating oil tanks or abandoned gas stations, and we're looking at cleaning those up. And usually cleanups start by digging up the abandoned tanks and any sort of soil contamination we might find. Actually, that picture on the right, the person in the yellow sweatshirt is me. So that was just a couple quick pictures I wanted to show, just so you get an idea of what I'm looking at. And I'm not out at sites every day. I do a lot of report writing, a lot of communications with the DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection, again, regarding the cleanups of these sites.
And Lori, if you look back to, middle and high school where most of our students are right now who are joining us today, and, thought about what you were going to do, did you picture yourself doing this? How did that time in your life align with where you are now?
I always liked science when I was in school, especially earth sciences. And so even graduating high school, I didn't quite know what I wanted to do. And I enrolled my freshman semester at Wilkes University as undeclared. So I had several sessions. I was meeting with a career counselor, talking about what I liked to do, the classes I liked. And the career counselor was actually one who recommended I should check out the environmental science department. So that's where, in the spring, my freshman year, I was taking the environmental science classes. And I really enjoyed them. And so then from there, I graduated with the Earth Environmental Science degree. And like I said, after working 10 years as a consultant, I decided to go back to school for geology because of most of the cleanup projects we work on have to go to the DEP, which requires the professional geologist certification. So upon completing my studies at Bloomsburg University, I also took the state licensing exam for a professional geologist.
That's been quite a journey. So
Yes.
Thank you for sharing. I think that the pictures have really helped. I'm sure the students, I know, this isn't a field that I have a lot of experience in. So I think the pictures really helped us get a feel for what the day-to-day looks like, and sharing your journey. We do appreciate. I'm going to switch gears and introduce the girls to Dr. Cosima Visa. Dr. Visa, welcome.
Thank you so much. I am so delighted to be here, to have been invited to speak and to reach out to all of these young females and males, right, who are here in the audience today. I always had a passion for science and particularly biology. I loved living things. So that kind of steered me in the direction of wanting to study biology when I got to college. But I also always had this passion for issues of the environment. I've been around for a little bit longer, and there weren't a whole lot of environmental science programs at the time. But I was always told by family, you can be interested in that. It could be a hobby or something, but you can't make a career out of that. And I guess I was a little more stubborn, and I persisted with it. But I really didn't have any kind of an idea of what I was going to do with these interests. So while I was in college, I really reached out to some of the professors that I worked with, that I had for classes. And there was one in particular, he was a plant scientist, and I really loved plants. I thought they were great. So I started doing some research work with him. And then through a connection that he had to a faculty member at Penn State, he said, oh, there's this opportunity for a master's program. My colleague, she works on plants and environmental impacts on plants. And I thought, my goodness, this is like, the ice cream with the cherry on top or something. It seemed like an incredible opportunity. So I went to Penn State. I still didn't have a good idea, though, of what I was going to actually do with this. But I went and I did this master's degree. And I had the opportunity to work with my mentor. And she was an incredible person. She, tough as nails, demanded a lot, but she taught me so much. And I'm so grateful to her for having taken me on and having guided me through all of that. So I ended up staying to do a PhD as well. It was a long process. And at the end, I still didn't really have a good idea of what I was going to do with all of this. But my program was coming to an end and I needed to make some choices. So I started applying for teaching jobs, and I landed the job here at Misericordia University, where I've been a professor of biology, and I love it, and I still love it. And I've been here for almost 20 years, and I still wake up every morning excited to have the opportunity to interact with the students, to teach, to do research. And here I've really been able to realize, my interests in environmental issues. I teach environmental science. I do research in issues of the environment in a variety of different ways. And so I just feel so fortunate to have had the opportunities I did, but also I'm glad that I persisted. I was ready to quit and give up and all of that, but I didn't. And I'm so glad that I didn't, because it's been an incredible career, and I look forward to many more years of learning from students and being inspired by them. And maybe some of those will be you.
Thanks, Dr. Visa. I think your story is inspirational as well, and so interesting that you were inspired to stay in academia after pursuing all of those, degrees and spending all the time in education. And one thing, you obviously mentioned that you're at Misericordia. Maybe talk a little bit about what some of the programs are, in your space that are available to the students. So I know you said, you obviously are a professor there a long time. What are some of the degree programs that you are involved in and that the girls might be interested in hearing a little more about?
Sure. So I am a faculty member in the biology department, and our goal is really to provide the most sort of well-rounded biology education that we can. And our graduates have gone on to do a huge variety of different things. And so we feel that our recipe is working pretty well. In addition to biology, we also have, of course, a chemistry department and a biochemistry program. There is math. We have a statistics program. We also have, of course, programs in the health sciences. So we have a doctorate physical therapy program. There's an occupational therapy program. There's a nursing program, speech language pathology. Particularly the physical therapy students we see a lot more of. So we offer some of the courses that many of those majors take. But particularly for our physical therapy students, they choose an undergraduate major, which they complete in 3.5 years. And many of them choose biology. So we have, a good number of our biology majors go on to physical therapy. And every now and again, we have some that decide they want to make a switch and they go to medical school or even graduate school. We are also in the process of developing a new program at environmental studies. So that will hopefully be coming online for the fall 2021 semester. We're very excited about that. It's a very interdisciplinary program with both humanities disciplines and the sciences, and opportunities for students to go out and do internships and research opportunities and make connections to the community. So we're very excited about that program coming online.
Awesome. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all that background. You mentioned and spoke a little bit more about the physical therapy program, and we have a physical therapist with us today, and I thought it would be a great opportunity to introduce Noelle Kula. So welcome, Noelle.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
We're thrilled to have you with us. So Noelle, maybe talk a little bit, introduce the students to you and what you do, and what advice you might have, to these younger students who, are looking forward at, what to do next, right? They're
Okay.
exploring their options. So.
Yep. All right. So I actually just graduated from Drexel University with my doctorate in physical therapy in 2019. So not too long ago. I now work at Lehigh Valley Health Network in Hazleton in the Gunderson Rehab Unit. So it's an inpatient rehab unit where patients come. It's a short stay, 10 to 14 days, and we do physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy all together. Patients get about 3 hours of therapy a day, so it's pretty intense. A little bit of advice that I would give people is if you're not sure what you want to do, but you're interested in physical therapy, get out there and do lots of shadowing and experience the different settings that it has to offer. It's one of the great things about physical therapy. You can work in so many settings. It kind of also allows you, if you want to change in your career, it's a way to change and keep your degree that you have. If it's something that you're sure you want to do, there are so many programs out there that allow you to do a shortened version where you do 3.5 years and then an extra 3 years for your doctorate degree. Instead of doing a little bit extra schoolwork. I did a little extra schoolwork, so there's nothing wrong with that. But it is an option to kind of shorten your schooling if you could do that. So lots of experience if you're not sure, or if you are sure, it's great to just go out and shadow a PT, see what they do in their everyday life, how they interact with patients, what patients they see. It's just such a cool setting to really get to meet new people, and you kind of get a nice variety within the setting too.
Noelle, do you work with students? Do they shadow you? Is that something that they can do? Like, is there a formal program to be able to take advantage of an opportunity like that?
I'm not 100% sure. I do know that we take college students. who are working on their degree at the moment, and they come and they stay with us for like 2 months to 3 months. And the goal is to kind of get them feeling confident in the field and almost like they're a physical therapist and we're there to help them where they may need, teach them different things, that sort of stuff. But I'm sure we allow shadowing. I'm not sure what it goes through, but I could get back to you and let you know so you can share that with people. Yep.
Okay, I mean, I think your advice is just so great, because when students are exploring careers, you know, being able to shadow and see what the day-to-day looks like is so important. And you don't think about inside a single field like physical therapy, how many different types of physical therapy there are, right? All the different settings that you could possibly work on, like you mentioned, and how you want to pursue that. So I think the shadowing is such great advice for students of all ages, whether they're in college or, you know, at middle school and high school and interested in exploring. So thank you for that advice. I think that's great.
Sure.
I'm going to turn over to your fellow friend in blue here, Susan Wallace. Hi, Susan. Welcome.
Hello.
So Susan and Noelle are sharing a conference room today at Lehigh Valley Health Network. If you can see the trend in the chairs, and we're thrilled to have you ladies be able to take time out of your very busy schedule. We know that you're clearly there for work. You're dressed. So Michelle had promised that we would get to meet a surgical tech today, and that is Susan. So Susan, tell us a little bit about what you do, and love to hear a little bit about your journey.
Okay, I'm Susan Wallace. I graduated from high school in 1983, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But my parents were gung-ho on, you have to go to college as soon as you're out of high school. So I picked medical secretary at Lackawanna Junior College. It went okay. I did graduate, but I never got a job in my field. I continued to work at a grocery store that I started that job when I was 16 years old. And I worked there for years and years, and Luzerne County Community College would bring in a stand with pamphlets on careers and classes you could take. And the one day I was looking and I saw surgical technology, and I thought, wow, this is something that I think would be very interesting because I am fascinated by the medical field. So I took the pamphlet and I thought, you know, I don't know if I'm going to get into this because I didn't have algebra in high school. I never had chemistry. I concentrated on business. So I called the school. I asked a lot of questions. They were very helpful and told me I needed to take 2 developmental study classes in algebra and chemistry. And I managed to do very well in them. And I managed to get into the program. They only choose about 20 people, and sometimes only 9 people graduate out of the 20. So I started my career late in life in my 30s. It took me that long to realize what I wanted to be. And I wouldn't change anything about what I chose to do because I had a lot of great life experiences up until I left working at the grocery store after 16 years. I've been at Lehigh Valley Hospital Hazleton I just celebrated my 23 years on November 7th. And I work in the operating room, assisting the surgeons. There is so much that you do in the operating room that you don't even realize, from setting up equipment to helping position patients, comforting patients, being there for them through their whole procedure right up until the end. And it is such a great feeling to do that. And I mean, I don't know what else I would want to do in life because it's just a very rewarding career.
It's so great to hear you talk about, you know, the reward of the career you've chosen, and maybe it took you a while to get there, but you know, hearing about that satisfaction is you know, amazing. I think to all of us. And you mentioned soft skills, right? You know, about being there for the patient. I think when we think about, you know, many of our science fields in particular, you know, we think healthcare, it sounds very, you know, tech, right? You're a surgical tech. But, you know, can you talk a little bit more? I'm sort of off the cuff here on the soft skills, because I think it's very interesting. that you mentioned, that patient care. And I think everybody who's in the medical field in particular has some element of that in their job, if not maybe, the most important element. So how important is that part of your day to day?
Oh, it's very important, from maintaining sterility when you're setting up your case. Everything you do is for the patient. And I always think that what I'm doing for the patient is what I would want done for myself or my family. So right up until sterility, setting the case, when they bring the patient in the room, you can give them a warm blanket, you introduce yourself, and you don't realize how much that means to a patient coming for surgery. You can hold their hand while they're going to sleep, and you're just there for them. Everything revolves around that patient, and everything you do from beginning to end revolves around that patient.
Thank you.
And it's great. It really
Yeah.
is. It's very satisfying, and it makes you feel really good at the end of the day with everything you have done for your patients.
Thanks, Susan. I appreciate you sharing your story and answering those additional questions. I do want to introduce our final, but not last but not least panelist, Denise Garenza, who is a speech pathologist. Denise, we're didn't switch gears too far because we're staying in the medical profession a little bit, but pretty significant turn from surgical tech and Susan's experiences. Would love to hear your story and what your day-to-day is like.
Well, my name is Denise Colangelo Garenza, and I am a speech therapist at St. Luke's VNA, and I do home care. And I just want to say from a side that my story is similar to Lori's and Susan's and Michelle's. I was told in high school that I won't get accepted to college. My guidance counselor told me, don't even apply. I proved him wrong. I got accepted to Wilkes. And with Susan, my parents, I didn't want to go to college. I was a B student. I just wanted to work in my father's business, but I was pushed to go to college, and I did. And I was like Lori, I went undeclared because I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I was a B student. 17 years old, I had no clue. And so I took my parents' advice. I just went to college undeclared, took some general education courses. And when my spring semester of my freshman year at Wilkes, my best friend ended up having a stroke in high school in May. And I went with her for her therapy over the summer to John Hines because she was unable to communicate. And to me, I didn't care if my friend couldn't walk, couldn't feed herself. I just wanted her to talk to me. So every night I would do her speech therapy homework with her. And it just hit me that this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I didn't know how I was going to get there. I had no clue. So I didn't have this opportunity like the girls and boys have now, where great programs like this were available to me. I had to research without a computer how to change my major, change colleges. And I had to transfer and figure out how to transfer to Kutztown University for communication disorders. And at that time, speech therapy, all you needed was a bachelor's. And I was like, okay, I could do this. And then my junior year, my advisor tells me, no, now it's master's. And I'm like, oh God, I wasn't expecting this. I can't do this. But I went to Bloomsburg University, received my master's in speech pathology. And I just wanted to share that because I want to let the girls and boys know that it's okay not to know what you want to do with the rest of your life at 16, 18 years old. Don't listen to the people who tell you can't do it, that you don't have the ability, the intelligence to do something. I think all of us on this panel are examples that you can succeed. You work hard if you enjoy what you're doing. And no matter what you choose, you can do it. And so right now I do home care, and I go to people's homes and I provide speech therapy, cognitive therapy, which is memories and thought organization, as well as swallowing therapy. And so I go to their homes and I evaluate, and then I set up a program and to help with the family improve the patient's ability to communicate, to follow commands, to remember, to swallow, and by changing their diets and their liquid consistencies. And I worked in various settings. I worked in a head injury facility. I worked at a hospital. I worked at outpatient. I worked in nursing homes. And I enjoy it. I love, just like, Susan said, being in healthcare, you treat the individual, you treat the patient as if it was you or a family member. And I feel as long as you enjoy what you do, you will succeed at it. And just from the whole panel that I'm listening to, like, I'm inspired. Like, I want to be, I want to do everything that you guys are doing. It's just like so interesting. And I'm just so inspired. But being a speech
and your
therapist,
story's inspiring too, Denise. I mean, I think, hearing, and I hear you, right? I mean, I'm personally inspired, and I thought, wow, I never thought about that career. And I hope the girls, I don't know, they're going to walk out of here with too many ideas, because you guys are so great at telling your stories and explaining what you do day to day. One of the things that you mentioned to me previously that you like about your job is flexibility.
yes.
So, you talk a little bit about how you visit patients primarily in their home. Talk a little bit about that flexibility, if you could, for a moment.
Sure. Right now, the way with my field, a lot of speech therapists are being hired PRN for contract or like part-time. There's still full-time therapists, but a lot of people like myself that I know that are in the field are PRN. And that is where I have contracts with different agencies and hospitals. And the company will get in touch with me either through email or texting if they have a patient for me. And I could say yes or no that I will take that patient. And what's nice about working PRN is that I've worked PRN throughout my children's schooling, from when they were in elementary, from when they were first born. I get paid hourly, and I'm able to be flexible. Like, I was able to participate in all my children's activities in the school, being like homeroom mom, and also go to sporting events. And I was always able to be available and change my schedule around my children's schedule, which I find that very rewarding and very, very nice to do. So
And
I was
I'm
very
glad you're able to share that. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I wanted to make sure we share that with the girls, because I think, sometimes we think about working in the medical field being, very rigid, and very structured. And in some ways, I'm sure that's the case. But your story about flexibility and being able to, work in that space and have a lot of flexibility for work-life balance is I think important. And I see many of the other ladies shaking their heads, that's something they look for in careers. And I think a lot of women in particular, even though the girls might not really be thinking too much about that yet, I think, as women in general, we think a lot about our work-life balance and having family flexibility. So
exactly.
I wanted them to make sure they heard that from you. So we have a lot of questions coming in, and we have some really great questions coming in, and I'm going to start to sort of move around the panel a little bit here in our last few minutes with our panel to get some of those questions addressed. And the first one that's coming in was for Lori. And Lori, I just wanted to redirect to you just for a minute here on two things. One, you're obviously working in a very male-dominated field, so any advice for the girls? And number two, there was a question in terms of how much time you spend in the field versus how much time you spend in the office. So if you could just touch on both of those briefly, we'd love to hear.
Okay, well, with the pictures that I've showed, I do a lot of site work, right, to meet equipment operators. And in 20 years, I have never met a female equipment operator. So I'm meeting on site, usually with guys. I'm the project manager, so I'm the one that has to direct, what goes on that day, where we're digging, where we're putting in wells. So you just have to not be afraid to be the project manager. And then what was the second question?
Just about how much time you spend in the field versus in the office.
Okay. That varies a lot. All the site work that I do involves writing a very extensive report that has to be submitted usually to a regulatory agency. So, I mean, I've had some large projects where I've been out at a site for an entire week. Most of the time, it's just one day's worth of site work, and then we send samples off to the laboratory, and then we have to get them back. And so then that's where we have to write the reports. I also we do our projects start to finish. So I have to write the proposals for the jobs. I have to schedule the work, do the field work, write the reports, and then we even then do the approve the invoicing, for accounting and everything. So I have to, do my project start to finish. So, and every day is different. So I don't have, a set schedule like, oh, I have like 2 days in the field, 3 days at the office. Every week is different depending on what jobs I have going on.
And I think that's probably appealing in and of itself, right?
Yeah, the variety is really nice. Yeah, and I'm working on something different every day.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, I'm going to direct the next question to Dr. Visa. I think that, this aligns very much to some advice that you gave. So there's a question about, do you pursue a career where you have a lot of interest in a specific career, or do you suggest pursuing sort of a subject area that you're interested in or good at? So, it's kind of like I'm good in science, so should I pursue a career in that space? Any advice there? In academia, you see a lot of students coming through. So what's your advice there?
So, and I hope that I will answer this question well. I firmly believe, given my years of being here and seeing all the many different things that students have done with their degrees, I really think it's important to get a good, solid foundation and to not specialize too early, because it is very possible that as you move through, your college career, you may discover, you take a class and you may suddenly discover that, marine biology is the most amazing thing you've ever learned about, but you didn't know about that before. So if you narrow focus too early, then you may miss some of that. So I definitely recommend, sort of to start with, to have a broad base and to allow that to guide you to where you want to go. Reach out to a lot of people, reach out to, the professors around you to see what they've done and use that for inspiration to decide where you want to go and how you want to get there. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I think that's really great advice. I'm going to turn one more question we have. Adjourn our panel with Michelle Roberts. Michelle, so the question was early on about your experience in terms of nursing and pursuing management. So you spoke a little bit about your journey and getting into a leadership position. So any advice in terms of looking ahead to management and how that career path might differ than the day-to-day sort of nursing career path?
Well, I think similar to Dr. Weiss, you need a good base. You have to, I think, get into nursing because, you think you might like one aspect of nursing and then you may work in the ER or work in the operating room and realize, wow, I really love to be in that space. And then after you kind of establish where you want to be within the nursing field, I think it makes it easier then to say, okay, now next steps for me would be to pursue some leadership opportunities. And that might be being in charge, being at the desk, kind of facilitating the flow of the unit for the day. And then that's what my master's degree is in leadership and management. So I knew once I got into the operating room space that I absolutely loved. It kind of naturally progressed from there, from charge positions, then to manager, and then to director.
Thank you. All right, so if anyone has any other questions for our panel, you can certainly drop them in the chat and our panelists can take a look. We are providing you with contact information. I know we can't get to all the questions because we only have an hour and there's a lot of really great questions, but I want to thank Michelle. I want to thank our panelists all for joining us. Your stories are inspiring and just we're thrilled to have you and expose all these girls to all these different careers and your great journey. So thank you again. I am going to take a minute here now and introduce Kim Kyra from Barry Isett and Associates. Kim, I am thrilled to have you with us. Kim and Barry Isett and Associates are a sponsor of ours, and Kim is going to talk a little bit more about work at Barry Isett and some of the career opportunities there. Welcome, Kim.
Buddy, happy to be here today. So I'm going to try to share my screen. I don't know if that's working.
Yep, it's great, Kim.
Good. Okay, perfect. All right. So yeah, Barry Isett and Associates. I have just go through a little bit about the company. We are consulting engineers, and we perform a host of other services as well, as Lori mentioned. But we were founded in 1997, and we have about 180 employees with us right now. We are employee owned. So if you're more in the business world, you'll have some appreciation for that. We are also a multidiscipline firm, and we provide services that have to do with working with the land and also working with buildings. And our company values are here as well, as far as team ownership, balance, and service. We are headquartered in the Lehigh Valley, but we also have set up regionally. So we have 3 offices in Northeast Pennsylvania, in Hazleton, Wilkes-Barre, and Stroudsburg. Also in the southeast part of Pennsylvania, we call it our Greater Berks office, which is near Reading, in the central Bucks County area, and also in the Delaware Valley area, kind of near King of Prussia. And then we also reach out to what we call our capital region, which is Mechanicsburg. At our company, we're set up that we have 3 different divisions. So we have folks that we say work with design. So they might work in CAD, they're engineers, they become project managers. We have folks who work out in the field. Those will be our land surveyors, our inspectors, our geologists, such as Lori, biologists, and then again, they can advance up the career path to become a project manager. On the public side, we have folks who their client base are public entities. So they are municipalities, townships, boroughs, and we employ drafters, designers in there, engineers, again, inspectors, landscape architects, and again, project managers and folks that work on grant writing. So very good. If you like that writing end of it, but you like the technical focus, that could be a potential opportunity for those folks. So just breaking it out a little bit more here, we talk about folks who tend to be heavy in the design. They like to work on CAD. They might like to do some client management, designing a specific type of project. Those will be our civil land development engineers. So they would work with a client who has a piece of land they want to put a building on, and they need to figure out what does that land need to look like to accommodate a building and parking and lighting and water and wastewater. And then we have folks who work, we call it MEP, which is mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineering. And they also do fire protection. So they are concerned within a building, how is it going to be heated and cooled? How's your lighting going to be? And what kind of power is needed to run all of those systems? And then we also have folks who work on structural engineering. So they really design what are the bones of that building going to be like. They would be our structural engineers. And then again, folks who go on to do project management and sometimes work on the construction side of things as well. And then we have folks who we say they are in the field. They like to be with the dirt. They're on land, right? So that would be some of our civil engineers. They could be a geotechnical engineer, land surveyors. Again, some of these careers, they would require a 4-year degree, but on the land survey side, it might be just a 2-year degree. If you're a drafter designer, it could also just be a 2-year degree. We also employ geologists and biologists. And again, they have that career track to go on and become a project manager. So at our department, we would call those our geotechnical engineering departments, and also folks who do special inspections. And then also land surveying, environmental consulting, which Lori is a part of, and then our forensic building investigations. again, then for those folks who work with public clients, with our municipalities, with our townships, we employ folks in the drafting field. We employ engineers, again, inspectors, landscape architects. So they might get a little bit more creative as opposed to analytical, but they also need to understand a lot of things that go into setting up kind of a civil land development project. And a lot of that has to deal with stormwater, right? So they're developing a new site and, you know, there's a neighbor. Well, they don't want your runoff and your rainwater. So they need to understand how that all needs to work together, what plants are going to do well on that site to obviously make it just a little bit more appealing and follow some guidelines that the municipalities have set. And that team, again, is a little bit different because they have career paths for grant writers. So often we team with the municipalities and try to help them find funding for some of their projects. So somebody touched on it earlier too. We pay a lot of attention to work-life balance, right? We want our employees to not only do a good job, we want them to be happy work. They want them to work well with their client base. So we're in a technical role, but I think we have fun while we do it. So we say that we're kind of in a professional but yet relaxed environment. And we realize that people want to, you know, they're not just what they do from 8 to 5, they have outside interests. And we try to do a lot to give back to the community, and we try to have fun together. In this new environment, it looks a little bit different, but you can just see some photos here of some events that our employees have participated in. We do offer shadow opportunities also to high school and college students. I think that's really important that they get to ask some questions, see what goes on in the field if they can, or just come into our office and take a look at how we work, speak to some of the people in those fields day in, day out. So my contact information is on this slide. I'm sure it'll be available later. And Dana Edelman, also listed on this slide, is our talent manager. So she's also going to be helping with recruiting and shadowing and outreach to schools and colleges. So with that, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kim. That was awesome. That provided us with a lot of additional information, and I appreciate Barry Eisnet being one of our sponsors again this year for our program. And with that, I guess we're almost at time. We're gonna wind things up for the day. An hour just isn't enough, but we want to get you all back to where you need to be. So I want to say thank you again to all of our participants, our keynote, and our panelists. I'm inspired. I hope you are all inspired by what you've heard today. If you didn't get your question answered, I did write them down and I wrote your names down. So I will get that information for you if you had a question and email that to you. If you want to reach out to any of our panelists or our keynote speaker, Michelle, you should have all gotten a guide that has the contact information and the bios. If you didn't get that, email me. My email is in the materials as well, but it's Kathy, CATHY.Colangelo, COLANGELO @yahoo.com. Again, I just want to thank all of you so much. Don't forget to tune in. We have 4 more of these amazing events, and we'll be back again on Thursday morning at 9:30 with our technology panel. You have the same login information. And again, if you have any questions or, you know, if you want more information or having trouble with anything, please feel free to email me or any of our panelists. And we'll also be sending feedback forms at some point. So I would love your comments and feedback on that. And with that, I just want to thank you all and to enjoy the day, enjoy this spring type weather that we have for a while. And we'll see you again on Thursday. Thanks, guys.